Oh man, had to let it ride out for a minute. It's just such a good track. That one gets me going, honestly. Welcome, welcome, one and all. We've got some people here. I know it's a little early for a stream, it's true, but the patch notes are out. I wanted to kind of get this done. I've got a couple battles I want to get casted today as well. Got a couple more videos. One is going to be releasing later today at about noon, and then probably one, like, maybe 1 a.m. my time, which is mountain time. The time zone that everyone forgets. But anyway, let's not get too caught up in that. We do have some patch notes to get to, so let's just get straight to it. I can do this here. Whoops. Already kind of having some issues here with OBS. Whatever. Get out of here, OBS. Who needs you? Okay. So, got the patch notes here. First things first, I do want to give a shout out to Turin. It's birthday today, so obviously he's a great guy. Big reason that a lot of us are here right now, so shout out to you, Turin. Happy birthday. Also, shout out to CA for an awesome update. Honestly, there's a lot of good in this update. I'm super happy with how things turned out, to be honest, and the Dwarfs, like, again, I have to keep saying this, I did not expect that at all. So, awesome. There's tons of videos about this, so we're going to kind of skip past. Also, shout out to Kevin Lloyd, the staff member at CA, who unfortunately passed away, will be immortalized in-game with a Vampire Counts character. Very cool stuff, and a great way to honor the man. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, Beastman rework, Dwarf rework, again, there's plenty of videos, and what I can say from my experience playing the campaigns, and if you guys are interested, maybe I can pull up some of the saves that I've been playing, just kind of on my own time to be able to formulate opinions, and to be honest, because they're really fun. Like, the way that generally these early access things work for me with the campaigns is if I enjoy them, I'll play them. If I don't enjoy them, I just won't play them very much. And I definitely have played the heck out of this update. Like, I probably almost finished the first Dwarf campaign I've finished, like, since the early release of Game 1, so that's quite a few years. Definitely saying something. The new runes system, like, they've kind of just built upon what they already had, and then of course adding the runic magic system, whole new factions. I don't know, it's just a lot of fun for sure. Beastman also, I finished a Morgar campaign. I think that was, yeah, one of the funnest campaigns I've done. Morgar is insanely strong in campaign now, and haven't got a chance to play any of the other campaigns yet. As for the DLC lords, again, I haven't had the chance to play Taurox, although I've seen a lot of stuff that he looks like a lot of fun. I can't wait to play him, honestly. Just probably going to finish up. There were some other changes too, and we might get to those, but Oxyotl, also a lot of fun. His campaign, a little bit, I definitely failed on my first time because I just did it completely wrong, and I kind of got bad RNG as it turned out. But second time around, having a great time, actually made contact with Mazdamundi, managed to confederate to Henowin before he got killed, so I'm like, you know, have an outpost in the north, I'm helping to retake Lustry at the same time. I've got, like, you know, that little choke point where Chaos invades, like, took those Norskins out and took that. So it's really cool the way you can kind of, like, teleport around and just, like, ninja, you know, karate chop people back of the neck, you know, like go garrote guy, you know, just running around doing ninja skinks stuff. It's awesome. A lot of fun. So that's been my kind of basic experience. Yeah, there's tons of stuff here. The Wandering Slayers is a great thing, too. The fact that, like, depending on your grudge level, you'll get more Slayers, the more grudges you have. But what you guys really come here for is battle balance changes, right, for multiplayer. So, obviously, big one, I got a video about this. Malagor can fly. He's one of the fastest units in the game now. Just ridiculously fast. Also got a spell rework. Some people were not super happy with the spell rework, and I kind of understand to a degree, but due to the fact that, I mean, Devolve got changed to a debuff rather than a damage spell. You've still got, you know, Cygor summons. You've still got... or is it Brace Scream? I'd have to look. Enfeebling Foe's great. Penumbral Pendulum is great. Yeah, Flock of Doom is also great. They've made a sort of change, and I need to double check to make sure it's still the case. But now I believe if any unit model of a unit is in a spell effect, it will hit the unit, right? So previously, you had to have kind of the quote-unquote center mass, which is a little bit wonky to calculate sometimes, to be honest. Like if a unit gets really weirdly spread out or whatever, this quote-unquote center mass of a unit had to be within the spell or effect radius, right? But now if a single unit model is in the effect radius, the effect will hit them. At least, again, I need to double check to make sure that's still the case once it goes live, but that's currently how it works, which makes spells like Flock of Doom a lot better. and all area of effect, you know, buffs, debuffs, damage spells, all going to be much stronger because you just have to hit a couple models with it, and you know, you can be a little bit more cheeky with the placement sometimes and get like a whole bunch of units, whereas previously you'd only be able to get maybe 1 or 2. So that's nice to see. I mean, I say it's nice to see. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out in the meta, but that remains to be seen. New unit cards, that's awesome. Beastmen now have Feral Minotaurs, about time. Again, a video on that. That actually did pretty well. Yeah, great cards. Some of them, you know, there's some discussion, let's say, about some of these cards, whether they're better than the last ones or not. I'm definitely a fan of them in general, I would say. We won't go too much into the details here. The passive ability recharge display is kind of nice. So these, like, charge, you know, in melee abilities are now visible on the unit cards, which is nice. They've reworked how all abilities kind of display. Now the active time is in the white, or sorry, the cast time's in the white, active is green, and then red is the cooldown, right? So, anyway, yeah, I think I got it right. I might have just screwed it up here. Let's actually read. Abilities have, yeah, before, now when ability is active, has green, yeah, green is active. When ability is recharging, red ring, and okay, yeah, so it just is a little bit easier to see kind of what's going on with your abilities. Precursor missile weapons, it only applies to chameleons right now. They're looking at applying it to like miners with blasting charges, for example, and you know, the skink cohort with javelins, which would make a lot of sense. So they've made a change, and actually broke. I think they might have. I just got word. I needed to double check, do some testing. I just got word that they might have actually fixed the chariot collision for the new chariots, but that they, like, you know, are making a slight change to them. They are going to be better, and you know, they fixed the weapon strength bug, because it was really not about their collisions. It was more so they were applying their full weapon strength, I think, on all their splash attacks, if I understood it correctly. And anyway, I think that's been fixed. We'll have to check that. But anyway, these pig chariots have all been improved, and it's funny that like the orc boar chariot is included in this just because it's a similar kind of skeleton animation set. Anyway, so yeah, they've lessened the stickiness of these chariots, Razorgores in particular, so they should be a little bit better to use. I did use Razorgores in one battle against the Dwarves, and they did very well, I have to say. So need some more testing, but again, that might have been because they were slightly broken as well. It's hard to say. Lizardmen, a lot of monstrous units, so they just kind of like swapped around the way that Lizardmen like is presented in the game, their unit selections. Did a lot of standardization on abilities that, you know, were like 24, 48, 72. It's just 25, 45, 60. Some other things, you know, more standardization on resistances, 20, 40, and 60. So it's a slight nerf to all resistances in the game, which honestly is fine. I think that's totally fine. Unit balancing specifically. Okay, so Kazrak got a little bit of a buff here on his Razorgore Chariot. Did cost a little bit more, but now much better melee defense. 8 melee defense is huge, actually. You know, 6 melee attack as well. Extra charge. No, actually, charge goes down. Probably shouldn't be doing this this time in the morning, but anyway. Yeah, Wissen's Wild Form, I saw, we'll get to that, changes for the lore of beasts. Anyway, Kazrak gets a little bit of a buff, more expensive, but just generally better overall. The melee defense in particular does help quite a bit. Beast Lord Chariot, same thing, it looks like. They did change Frenzy as well. A lot of the balancing changes you'll see here, it's like a unit losing to melee attack or whatever, because they buffed Frenzy. Again, in this sort of standardization, it's now plus 10 melee attack, and I think 10% armor piercing and base weapon damage. Previously, it was only base weapon damage, I believe, which is nice. And 10% charge, which is also... So Frenzy itself got better, but kind of to balance that out, a lot of the units that have Frenzy got like -2 melee attack, right? Because it's the difference. Anyway, yeah, Malagor. So here we go. Enfeebling Foe, Flock of Doom, Penumbral Pendulum. Doom and Darkness, I forgot about this one. Doom and Darkness is awesome to combo with his ability. It's, what, -20 leadership in an AoE or something like that. If you cast it like wherever he is, you know, because he has his own little personal AoE. Just absolutely amazing. Really love the Malagor changes. Morgar, more mass, so he won't get knocked over as easily. Hilarious. Maybe Tariff got them to do that one, honestly, but yeah, Razorgore Chariot again. Bray Shaman, The caster hero costs a little bit more, but more armor. Defense, 18 defense before was so bad, up to 30. That's actually like pretty good for a Chariot type unit. So not too bad. Gore gets a little bit of a buff as well. 10 leadership in particular is nice. Loses a little bit of charge. And again, frenzy. This is sort of the frenzy change, right? Loses a little bit of charge, loses a little bit of melee attack. Mass increase, although he'll still get catapulted into space, and there's, you know, technical reasons for that, unfortunately. Let's see, Razorgores, again, a little bit of a buff, plus the mass change. Razorgores, they're trying, I think, to help them not get overshadowed by the Tuskgores, because the Tuskgores are very good. But anyway, and Minotaurs here, they buff their leadership. Plus 10 leadership is a pretty huge change, I have to say. And again, a little bit of changes. I don't know if that was Frenzy specifically or Blood Greed, or is their kind of Minotaur ability that they've reworked, right? You've seen some of that, I'm sure. Manticores can now be recruited like other units. Yeah, we went over that. Butchers of Kalkengard, again, same changes. The 10 leadership is significant. That's actually massive. Yeah, exactly. So Tempest, yeah, so that was part of the standardization, right? So the speed debuffs, again, down to 60%. And you'll see some of those other ones too. I think Mither was also potentially nerfed. We'll have to look at that in the specific abilities. But I have more Slib, minus 50 cost, and a little bit of an HP nerf. On the regular Cygor as well, minus 50 cost, HP nerf. That's fine. Cygor's still going to be really good monster. Like, don't let the two fancy new monsters overshadow. I mean, if anything, they complement the Cygor very well, especially in certain types of builds. But anyway, let's see here. Destroys Drakwald, a little bit of cost. Britonia going on to them. I noticed this one immediately. Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis. I should also, I guess, talk about Cavalry, right? So it does appear, and I need to do some more testing for myself, and battles will kind of play this out, and we'll see over how this patch develops. It does appear that Cavalry has had some mass changes. Felcon was doing some testing and showing me. I did a little bit of testing of my own, and in battles I've played, they've been, granted, relatively limited. Some of them weren't great tests because of Chariot issues. In others, actually, the heavy Cavalry did perform very well, so it's hard to say initially, but I do think that Cavalry are in a slightly better place in the sorry, getting hung up here. Slightly better place than the last patch, but we'll have to see. Grail Relic, oh boy, Frenzy. Yep, again, these little Frenzy changes, not really a lot. Blessed Field Trebuchet, oh wow, +1 melee defense, that's amazing. Hellebron, again, lots of Frenzy changes here for things. Cauldron of Blood actually does get a cost decrease, which is nice. Melee defense buff, also nice. Hellebron on the Manticore, again, more frenzy changes. Same with the Death Hag. Hellebron minus 50 cost, nice to see. Not a lot, but it's something. Blood Racks, so they did change kind of how the Blood Racks projectile works, right? So it's a little bit more accurate. It will shoot over allies better. It won't get hung up on line of sight issues so much. And it now has a bonus versus infantry on its missile attack, which is nice, but it's doesn't make that much of a difference. I don't know. I'd have to look at how the splash. I don't really 100% understand how bonus versus X works on missile attacks. Like if it's only on the contact, if it's on the explosion, how exactly it works. But maybe it helps. I don't know. Maybe it helps a lot, but it just doesn't seem like much. Anyway. Yeah, some more frenzy changes, Hydra's cost decrease, and melee defense buff. It does seem like they're kind of buffing melee defense on some chariots and monsters, which is good. Definitely, it's kind of in a patch a while back, they made some changes where they, decreased melee defense, increased melee attack on a lot of monsters, and I think that was ultimately a mistake, but Ravagers of Karth, a little bit of a cost decrease. Sisters of Slaughter, a little bit of a buff. I mean, melee attack, melee defense, +1, +2. +2 melee attack, I should say, +1 melee defense. Not great. Still probably not going to be amazing, but we'll see. So, Grombrindle, Dwarfs have had quite a few changes. So, Grombrindle lost Flash Bomb, and the Engineers got it. It's also a skill they can get in campaign. Anvil of Doom, mass 900 to 2,500. So those Anvil Bearers and I think the Throne Bearers also for Thorgrim have been doing some extra squats. They've been eating their bread, and they are thick now. Yeah, so Runesmith had some item changes. And we can maybe look at those. Runesmith, again, the whole rune magic change. Again, item rework. So the Master Engineer, removed passive ability extra powder in custom battle, added flash bomb, added restock. So the restock is going to be pretty powerful. I think some people have maybe thought that it's going to be like extremely OP. I don't know if it'll be necessarily super OP. It could be super frustrating for certain factions that have to deal with gyro spam, but at the same time, gyros, yeah, I mean, by the time they've used up all their ammo, often in a multiplayer battle, like, the ground force has taken enough damage that it almost doesn't matter. Like, you rush well enough into the dwarves, like, you can definitely take them out quick enough, and I don't know. Yeah, basically, I'm taking more of a wait-and-see attitude. I do think 4 uses is maybe too much, and maybe 3 or even 2 would be better. We'll see. It does make the Vampire Coast even more sad, though, as they lose another unique thing. Ironbreakers, Norgrimlings, melee attack increase, also cost increase. Refilling their charges, I will say, Ironbreakers is a good use of that restock. Heat Gate Guard, plus 100 cost, but plus 4 melee defense. I don't think that's necessarily worth it, although Hammerers in general get a lot better with the runic magic system, being able to buff their melee attacks so they can actually smash. Yeah, see, regular hammers max splash attacks from 1 to 2, so that's interesting. We'll have to kind of see how that plays out. It doesn't look like that was applied to the Peak Gate Guard, maybe, or maybe they already had it before, I'm not sure. But anyway. Yeah, 41 melee defense. Yeah, can now fire in arcs, exactly, yeah. I'm just getting caught up on the chat here. Cygor nerf, I don't know. Well, I mean, it got a price reduction. That's what I'm saying. It got a minus 50 cost decrease. The Cygor actually, yeah. Did I say price nerf? I meant price decrease is what it actually was. But anyway. And if anything, Cygors get indirectly buffed because of the other monsters you can now take alongside them to kind of draw fire and do different things. Anyway, let's not get too hung up on that. Gyrocopter's a little bit more responsive. Ekron's Miners lose Frenzy. Just straight up lose Frenzy. It's a little sad. But the fact that you can actually refill their charges now, maybe this is a way they're trying to balance that out. Because they do get extra charges as their sort of ROR ability. Anyway, Empire, a little bit of Flagellant changes to do with Frenzy. Nothing else big. Wurzag, you'll see a lot of units with Frenzy getting, again, the changes here. We'll focus on Grom getting a mass decrease. I thought for sure they had nerfed his melee defense or health, but only minus 100 mass. And, I mean, he did have some ability changes, as we'll see later on, but we'll see. The Greenskins, I still think, are probably going to be top tier. Yeah, they also, like, reworked Boar Chariots. We'll have to look at the cost again. I think they only cost 750, and then they also, like, nerf Flappas, slightly buff Rollers, but I don't know. Pump Wagons I just don't see any place for right now in multiplayer, unfortunately. I don't know, unless they kind of rework them as well, but, like, the Chariots now at 750, like, if you need an armor-piercing Chariot, that's a pretty good price, and they're going to be much stronger than they were before, certainly. Anyway, lots more Frenzy changes here. A little bit of leadership buffs, interesting, and run speed for Savage Orc Boar Boys. Okay, so Boar Boys get a speed buff. That's interesting. Charge speed as well. That's okay. I mean, the Boars are some of the slowest cavalry in the game, or at least they were before. Now, though, they're faster than Empire Heavy Cavalry, which, of course, I mean, Reichsguard just further in the tank. Anyway, yeah, cost. I think this is a mistake right here. I don't like, if there's a, if I can nitpick with this patch, it can't be all good, right? This is a change I'm not a fan of. Again, I think this kind of just invalidates the Pump Wagons even more. 850 would have been fine. I think 750 is way too low. I also think the Tuskor Chariots, even if they fix the splash attack thing, probably should be 850 as well. Kind of remains to be seen. But, oh, okay, I'm getting word now that the bug is still there. So, yeah, so the Boar Chariots and the Tuskor Chariots are going to be broken for a while. So just be warned against Beastmen and, yeah. There's ways you can deal with them. Shooting them is generally the best way. If you can have a high charge single entity, preferably preferably flying, that you can, hit screen and repeat, cycle charge in that way. Maybe tear route them off. Oh, it's going to be hard if they have some immune to psychology. Anyway, let's get back to the actual patch notes. Yeah, Boar Chariots, I mean, they did nerf them, right? In a way. Charge bonus nerfed, mass reduction. But again, like other Boar units, they're faster. I don't know. Wolf Rider Archers, Spider Rider Archers did get a little bit more expensive, which is fine. They probably could have taken this even further, but it's probably fine. I mean, 25 cost on a unit that you generally spam ends up... It might not seem like much, but it does kind of change the calculation of things, of what you can take alongside it. Maybe you don't quite go as heavily into that. But anyway. Yeah, nothing for High Elves. Big, sad F's in the chat for High Elves. Grom is now cheaper as well. I didn't see that. Is he? I don't know, Spudhouse. I didn't see that in here. I have to look in game, but I think it's the same. Yeah, we'll look at the ability changes. Maybe ability costs got changed, but anyway. Nakai, let's see. Nakai got a huge mass buff. This is good. Also, minus 100 cost. We'll see. This is actually a pretty nice change for Nakai. I need to kind of try him out, and potentially in some matchups, you take him with the Oracle. The Oracle kind of act as support for him. Potentially, I don't know. The Oracle's pretty expensive to use in practice. But maybe, I don't know. Nakai's also pretty expensive. But if you kit him down, I mean, 1550 is not a lot to pay for a pretty good brawler. I don't know. Have to look at it. Henowin, for some reason, again, Frenzy. Again, yeah, keep forgetting myself. Tic-Tac-Toe, minus 100 cost. That's great. Rockar, weapon strength, again, part of Frenzy, I believe. I don't know. I think you could have just left it. For certain units, I think you could have just let the buff be as it was, rather than balance it out. Ancient Croc Score, also a mass buff, is okay. Mazdamundi costs more on Slock. Yeah, Lucky Banner's only 24 melee attack, Language of the Boys. I think that's correct. We'll see. More Lizardmen changes, more Frenzy changes. Skink Chief, plus 50 cost. Probably warranted. Also, you may have seen plus cost on... Oh, what are they? Chameleon Skinks, Red Crests here. Extra costs on Pog, Sentinels, Pterodon Riders as well. Red Crests, more Frenzy changes. Cost a little bit less, too, to help differentiate them from the Stalkers, who are not great. Spoiler alert. Feral Stegodon, for some reason, had higher charge than all the other Stegodons. Now has been brought in line with them. Ancient Salamander, kind of a rework. Significantly cheaper. Still just less reliable than the Solar Engine. If you want to be fun, you can take him, and it costs less to do so. You're less punished for doing so, but it's still just tough to use. Minus 200 cost even. I don't know. The HP is so low. I mean, 1250, you compare it to something like a Gyro Bomber. Gyro Bomber's only 1150, and both of those units, I mean, because they're so squishy, they're such a risk. Like, they're so hard to pay for themselves, and especially against factions which have good long-range missiles, it's going to be really hard to do so. Salamanders got cheaper, so did Razordons, which is nice. They were arguably too expensive before. Solar Engine cost increase is good. Stegodon, minus 50 cost is okay. Thundy plus 50 cost, interesting. Thunderous one and Chameleons plus 50. About time. I can't believe it took them this long, honestly. It's been how many years this game's been out? Chameleon Skinks have been strong the entire time. You know, arguably too strong, but finally, plus 50 cost. Throg mass decrease, interestingly enough. I guess they're kind of just trying to standardize a lot of the Monstrous Infantry Lord mass, which is interesting. Beast of Tashnar, cost increase for some reason, I don't understand. Moths of Savagery, again, cost increase, but they do buff their AP by 1 and decrease their base missile damage by, or base regular damage by 1. Could you imagine if they had missiles? That'd be awesome. Just throw giant javelins or something. Anyway, more Frenzy changes. Yeah, because Frenzy now buffs AP, it'll be interesting to see kind of how this plays out as rather a buff or a debuff for certain units. They are kind of fiddling with the weapon strength as well. I don't know if what exactly they're trying to achieve, you know, with all of this, but An AP buff for certain units would be nice, certainly. Bonebreaker, more frenzy changes for a lot of this stuff. Yeah, I think this is basically all frenzy changes for Skaven so far. Thing, minus 50 cost. Yeah, mostly just frenzy changes. Which, like for Censor Bears, so they didn't fiddle with the Censor Bears' weapon strength at all, right? So this means that the frenzy buff will be a direct buff for them because they get more AP damage and actually more charge bonus, which is great since they have high charge already, and again, primarily AP. So it's a buff for Censor Bears, a small one, but pretty decent one. Got a runners, got a little bit less expensive with poison, and both the sling variant and regular variant. That's interesting. Still less cost effective than Million Skinks, but let's not go there. Cetra can no longer hide in the forest on his Chariot of the Gods. It is a little, you know, eye-catching, let's say. Scorpion Legion got minus 50 cost. Necropolis Knights minus 25 cost. Same with the Halberds. That's fine. Not really much for the Tomb Kings. They definitely need more, but in sort of order of factions that need a rework, I would say Norska is now next up for sure, and then maybe Tomb Kings, honestly. Empire needs another go around, and Bretonnia as well, but we'll see. That would be kind of my top 4. Vampire Coast would be number 5. Yeah, Tide of Skjold plus 25 cost for some reason. Frenzy changes for Depth Guard. Really not much. Vampire counts. More frenzy changes for, you know, what are they? The Blood Dragon Bloodline. Mostly just that. Tells of Short Soften. Yeah, mostly all... Oh, Corpse Carts. Here we go. Look at this. My 5 Corpse Cart build got buffed. Yes, because I use Corpse Carts mostly for the mass anyway, and their mass got buffed to 1100, so... Gore smiles on this change. Yeah. I do think Krokar could use a buff, but, I mean, I will say, I've been trying to use him with the Oracle. I haven't been super successful yet, but I do think in the hands of a good player, you could see an Oracle plus Krokar build. In lieu of a kind of double Carnosaur, you have a shooting, healing, not Carnosaur, and then Krokar also can give Krokar Harmonic Convergence. I mean, just Harmonic Convergence, Earthblood, a decent spell kit. I don't know if Earthblood's necessarily enough healing. Maybe you also combo that and actually get good value from a, what is it called, Rev Crystal? I don't know. I need to do some testing with it and see, but same with Nakai. Like some of the other unloved lords, maybe they get better a little bit with the Oracle. More frenzy changes for Warriors of Chaos here. Lord of Change. Okay, so this applies to Big Bird and the ones in campaign, I would assume. Down to 4,000 mass from 5,000. Fine. Poison Warhounds plus 25 cost increase. It's okay. Or sorry, minus 25 cost decrease. Sorry, a little early in the morning. Yeah, Corpse Cart is an actual chariot now. And, I mean... I joke about it, but the Necromancers on Corpse Carts actually have like 300 weapon strength, I think. I mean, they're like legit character single entities, and the Corpse Carts do actually deal damage. Like, if you get someone surrounded by 3 character Corpse Carts, like a, you know, low tier kind of foot character or a caster or someone, they will get killed. It's dumb, but it happens. Okay, so a little bit of a buff for Sisters of Twilight melee defense. That's interesting. For the Glade Dragon... female Lord on the Glade Dragon. That's interesting. I wonder if it was less than the male Glade Lord? I would have to look at that. Apparently not for him. Oh no, it is here. Duh. I'm just, again, dyslexia early in the morning. Oh, this is great. Anyway, yeah, more frenzy changes. Dryka, significant base cost increase, 150 points is quite a bit. Race the Frozen Heart plus 25 cost. They originally started out at what, like 750, 725? 775? I don't know. They have had another cost increase. ROR Azrai Spears, for some reason, who knows? You know, they were mega OP before, everyone knows, right? I have no idea on this one, to be honest. Yeah, Stag Knights, again, more frenzy changes. And notice, again, the ones that get the weapon strength changes in addition to melee attack changes. Can you guys even see this, by the way? The text might be tiny on the screen, but... Rev Crystal needs a faster heal duration and cooldown. Yeah, I kind of agree. For sure. I mean, you say mount power creep, and then you look at Kislev and you say, oh, wow, they have no mounts. What happened? Yeah, more melee defense increase for Forest Dragons, so that's nice. They needed to do this for other dragons in the game, but Forest Dragons, I made a video about recently and just kind of pointed out that they're really not amazing. You actually look at the stats on paper, and +2 melee defense isn't a lot, but, 2% chance to not get hit in the long run, if you're taking potentially hundreds of hits, does add up, definitely. So, it's nice to see. Spells, they did this spell cost unification. A lot of people don't know, though, the more abilities you take on a character, the less cost it is. So, like, if you were to just take a character base with no spells or abilities whatsoever, this is what the passives would cost. Basically, a little bit of a nerf, because a lot of passives were cheaper, and not many of them are super useful right now, I would say, honestly. So it's one of the first things you would cut in a lot of cases. Pretty much Kindle Flame. You're spamming Flock of Doom, you want to take Wild Heart. Manticores did get more expensive in terms of Winds of Magic. We'll look at that. Miscast, I had no idea that this was even a thing, but now it's just the same for all the spells. Rune Magic, we've talked about ad nauseum in many videos, so check that out. So the actual changes. Vindictive Glare. Halved the damage. Before you look at any of the weapon strength changes, just look at this most importantly. This should have been honestly top of the list. Projectile number 10 to 5. So that's a 50% damage decrease just from the outset, right? And they've made the main missile damage not do so much AP. It's now mostly, it is mostly AP now. And same with the explosive damage, right? So they halved the number of projectiles, but it now does more AP, and they've lessened the Winds of Magic cost. So I don't know. I mean, projectile number from 10 to 5 is pretty significant. That's overall definitely a damage decrease, so that's nice to see. Burning Head, Lore of Fire, again getting nerfed here, a little bit less damage overall, that's fine. Aspect of Dread Knight now adds Fear. Before it only added Terror, which I always found a little bit odd, and also adds magic attacks, which is nice. It's another way to get magic attacks cheap. I think that's now the cheapest spell maybe that gives magic attacks. I'd have to look, but in certain situations, I mean, especially if you're fighting an ethereal character, for example, you get the Fear and Terror, so you won't Terror out, and you get the magic attacks to cut through their physical resistance. So interesting. I like this. Maybe it'll make Aspect of Dread Knight a little bit more useful. Aspect of Dread Knight, same thing. Also reduce the cost of upgrading. Only 8 to cast the Overcast is interesting. Soul Blight duration decrease, but now has an armor piercing component, which is awesome. It makes Soul Blight much better, in my opinion. Same thing for upgraded, obviously. Enfeebling Foe duration nerf. Smoke and Mirrors. If this cost change wasn't enough for you to not take Smoke and Mirrors, which most people didn't already, because 12% speed really isn't a lot. Now it's only 10% speed, which is slightly even worse. Not in a way that's really meaningful for most units, but anyway. Lore of Wild, Bestial Surge, a little bit of a nerf to the charge bonus, but that's fine. Again, just part of the standardization. Devolve, I discussed this. Total rework to the spell now is a debuff rather than doing direct damage. Debuffs melee attack and speed and charge speed, so that's okay. I mean, in a way, this can be seen as giving your units melee defense, which Beastmen generally lack, so it's okay. I mean, it's generally not something I would take just because your Winds of Magic, I think, are better spent elsewhere if you're taking Lore of Wild, but it's there. Vile Tide is now uncommon, costs a little bit more, and yeah, will cost more Winds of Magic as well, but does more damage on the base version. So basically, I think the base version is what upgraded was before, and now upgraded is even better. So there's that. Traderkin, a little bit of a mana cost decrease, and sort of the area of effect change benefited Traderkin greatly. Probably like Traderkin, Flock of Doom, those area of effect damage spells, honestly, I think all got better. Soul Stealer, Final Transmutation, that kind of stuff. Traderkin and Soul Stealer in particular, because once it's cast, you can't move out of the area of effect. You can't move into the area of effect either, but you know, with those two, like the moment the spell goes off, anything that's in that area of effect gets hit, and there's no way for them to, as is the case with Final Transmutation, where you can actually move out of the area of effect, and the tick will stop affecting you after a certain point. Anyway, Mantle of Gorok costs a little bit more, and they nerfed the duration. I thought they actually buffed this before, but I guess it was just always that good. Yeah, I've now added an upgraded version, which I didn't even know. Need to look at that. Lore Beast, we're talking about this a little bit before. Some buffs. Wiston's Wild Form, like with Soul Blight, now has an armor piercing component, which is great. I actually think this is a nice little buff to certain monsters. Basically, you've got armor and armor piercing and weapon damage, which is nice. Pan's Pelt now, instead of giving speed, gives melee defense. Again, another great kind of little buff to help your survivability of single entities. Often you couldn't take advantage. And it's kind of weird to give speed to like maneuver away plus physical resistance. I think the melee defense makes a little bit more sense. And, as a spell now, Pan's Pelt is going to be a nice one to take to just kind of throw on, expensive single entities in particular, or just expensive units in general that you need to have a little bit more melee defense. For some factions, this will be better than others. I don't know, these kind of cheap buffs and debuffs, hard to say how much of an impact they have, but the physical resistance plus melee defense, I think, combined could make this a pretty good one, and melee defense in particular is a pretty good modifier, whether as a debuff or as a buff, just because it's easy to get to that minimum hit chance with some extra melee defense, or at least get closer to it. So I like that change actually quite a bit. Curse of On-Rare also, they changed the accuracy to melee defense. And again, I literally just talked about melee defense modifiers are great. With this one, you can get a higher hit chance. So situationally, I think these will be quite good. I actually think Curse of On-Rare might be really nice for the Lizardmen. I'll have to look, especially given that Manticores are 2 more cost. Manticores actually cost more than Cygors now in terms of Winds of Magic, which, you sit and think about it, it's not make a lot of sense, but at the same time, it is what it is, Manticores are more widely available, certainly, so it's fine. And you still probably will take this, as the thing, in a lot of situations. Maybe there's some arguments to be made now that you just spam Block of Doom if you're going to take Lore Beast, but anyway, we'll have to see. Let's see here. High Magic. Yeah, again, a little bit of standardization from a lot of abilities. Blessed with Filth gets cheaper in terms of Winds of Magic. While Pestilent Birth now costs +2 Winds of Magic, so 16 to summon Plague Monk, which is quite a bit. I don't know about that. Runic Magic, we talked about all this. Frenzy, we talked about this. Poison, another huge one that you have seen if you've watched any videos. Speed is the biggest component, -24 to 15%, so that is a -9, or I guess, yeah, +9% if you actually math it, but whatever, you get it, 9% change. That's significant. I mean, only 15% speed now is much more manageable. It makes units like Chameleon Skinks a lot easier to deal with. That, combined with the cost increase, and again, like Spider Riders, anything that has poison now, much easier to deal with, just less oppressive overall. I do think this is a good change. Some minor ability changes here for items. Potion of Foolhardiness, Featherfoe Torque, which I don't know. Can anyone actually take this multiplayer? Brass Cleaver. Deadly Onslaught, up to 40 charge bonus now. This is a nice little buff for a very old ability in Warhammer. 40% charge, I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot, but for characters that have high charge bonus already, like Griffins, Kazrak's a good example of this. He has ridiculously high charge already. So, you get that extra 4% modifier on an already high number, and that actually is a significant buff for certain units. Yeah, Flammable, slight speed standardization, evasion, chilling aura, all that stuff. Beastman, you've seen a lot of these changes again in battle. I'm not really going to talk too much about this here. Yeah. Beloved Son of Bretonia now gives a little bit more charge. Nice buff to, what is that, Alberic? Lance Formation, a little bit of, again, speed and charge bonus standardization stuff. Oh, a little bit of a buff for Raponce as well. Plus 10 melee attack and melee defense in an AoE is actually really strong. I mean, again, plus 1 to each might not seem like that much of a change, but 1% hundreds of times is still something, you know, potentially saves you tiny bit extra. A little bit extra could make the difference. A lot of RNG, but anyway. For Dark Elves, a lot of, again, more standardization of just charge bonus, speed, melee attack, defense, all that stuff. It does seem like they're kind of trying to put things into a more easily understandable rather than using these like 2 and 12 and whatever weird modifiers. Just, we know, flat 10, 15, 20, you know. Yeah, greenskins are still going to be quite strong. The poison nerf will hit them. I don't know why they buffed the speed. I mean, I know why, but at the same time, the speed buff for the boar units and the fact that the boar chariots are now broken, it means greenskins are still going to be very strong. Yeah, greenskins are still going to be top tier. Not enough changed here. We can look at some of their abilities. I guess did I gloss over Mither? I might have. No, okay, we haven't actually got the greenskins abilities yet. Just the magic, that's right. Okay. Anyway, for dwarfs, did we finish up with Dark Elves? Yeah, more or less. Dwarfs, Flash Bomb is castable at a range now. Great Book of Grudges, Hammer of Angerin get a little bit better. High King, all that stuff. Again, more standardization. Same for the Empire. Kaboom! Explosion now counts as fire damage. Oh, this is for the steam tank. Okay. Campaign-only steam tank. White Cloak of Ulrich, more standardization. Same thing. Greenskins. Okay, so this is a nerf to the Fanatics for sure. Another one. So Fanatics now start on a melee recharge, where they have to be... Fanatics infantry unit itself has to fight in melee before they can use the Fanatics. That's true of all of the loons, and the boss's loons even, that's the character one, right, for the Goblin Big Boss. So, language of the boys, now less effect, area, and again, duration. This is one you referenced earlier for Grom. Smaller AoE effect. Again, the fact that the AoE change was made, I don't know if this is really going to be much of a big effect. Duration, almost half, though, is significant. Costs a little bit less. Lucky Banner, the melee attack goes from minus 40 to 24. I still think they should have nerfed the resistance on it. But that's just my personal opinion. What do I know? WA charge bonus is now up to 20%. The Grayton is here. Leadership down to 8. Duration, slightly longer. Costs less. More standardization on ward saves, physical resistance, so forth. Mither now only has a 75. Okay, so I thought they would change the speed on it. We'll have to take a look at this again, but target range is down minus 25 meters, excuse me, which is, I guess, something. I don't know. Greenskins are still going to be really strong. I don't think they did enough. More standardization for the High Elves on abilities. Please, CA, buff the High Elves. I mean... yeah, let's not talk about that too much right now. Lizardmen. More standardization. Protection of Quetzal. Is this the aura of Quetzal? I don't know. I actually don't. Or is this... What is this? I don't actually remember this ability at all. I'm that much of a noob when it comes to Lizardmen. Yeah, I think melee defense, armor, or health, like any of the three, not all of the three, but any one of those three, they could have nerfed on Grom, and that would have been helpful. Yeah. Anyway. More standardization on a lot of this stuff. Oh, Arc of Sotek added a damage over time contact effect, finally! So the Arc of Sotek does get a significant buff. Yeah, removed the poison contact effect. So now it actually does a dot. So we'll have to look at this. Maybe we can do some testing with this Arc of Sotek and see. But now instead of poison in an AoE, it does a dot, which I have not tested out yet. That looks fun. Is this? Yeah. Yeah. Sunburst Standard, whatever it was. It's now 5, which is a nerf to the Sunburst Standard, unfortunately. I do think they need to maybe reevaluate, I don't know, like what kind of number system they use to assign values to items, but certainly some items are better than others, let's say that. Especially for the price you pay for them, like legendary items in particular. But Norska, again, lots more standardizations and everything, not really too much to see there. Warp Discharge is for Icket Claw, right? So one of his abilities gets a bit more expensive. Yeah, more standardization. Lucky Skull Helm goes up to 40%. Yay, Tretch. Less terrible. Tomb Kings, again, more standardization. This is mostly what these abilities changes are. It's kind of hard to parse through. One point of feedback for CA, and I might drop a note for them about this, is to, like, for the kind of broad changes like this, if they were just to mark, like, okay, the frenzy changes get an asterisk. You know, the speed, whatever, charge, melee attack, defense, standardizations all get a whatever symbol to denote that this is part of that change. So that way it'd be a little bit easier to just parse through at a glance and look at what changes were made beyond those, because it is a little bit hard to see sometimes just kind of glancing through these which ones are going to be actual changes and which ones are just kind of a part of that. And it is interesting to go through and look, you know, which ones got nerfed, which ones got buffed as a result. I don't know that it's really going to matter a lot in too many cases, but a lot of this will kind of bear itself out, you know, kind of as the patches go on, right? Like, for example, Horn of the Wild Hunt gets a buff, while Banner of the Eternal Queen gets a nerf, right? So, interesting to see. We'll see how all of this plays out. Yeah, bug fixes. Interesting for quick battles. Doesn't really apply too much to tournaments, but unit cap fixes. Salons are no longer rare single entities. Great Stag mounts are no longer rare single entities. I think Bone Breakers, unfortunately, still are, which they should not be. But ranged fleet captains no longer count towards range cap. Fixed an issue where some Wood Elf character eagles were counting towards High Elf eagle caps. Interesting. Wood Elf character eagles were counting towards High Elf eagle cap. Okay. Let's not think of how they even figured that out. But yeah. Yay, they fixed the Chaos Campaign 2% charge bonus. I know, right? Now, there's still a lot that needs to be done, and they said they literally can't do everything. I mean, a lot of this stuff they know needs major reworks, but it's interesting to see the standardization. I'd be curious to know the thinking behind this. Just kind of to bring everything into a easier to understand range and make it easier to compare abilities, maybe figure out what's useful and maybe send more feedback as to what needs to be buffed, what needs to be changed. Overall, I think there's definitely a lot of positives in this patch. I do think a couple of negatives. I just want to, again, because it's mostly positive, I guess I have to pinpoint the things that are negative, right? Because there's only a few. Number one is definitely not enough greenskins nerfs. I mean, again, I need to play more battles and see. The poison nerf, I do think, will affect them. But I don't know. I haven't seen enough here that really makes me think they're going to go down a tier. I still think they'll be top tier. The Chariots, if the bug does persist, I need to do some testing. If the weapon strength bug does persist, tournament rule sets are probably going to be limiting Boar and Tuskor Chariots and Razorgore Chariots until that gets fixed in a hotfix. Because it's that plus, I think they fixed the double shooting bug for the Troglodon. I also need to check that one as well. Nakai will no longer incorrectly give certain regions to Empire factions. Oh man, I wish that happened to me when I was playing the Empire anyway. Counts got screwed over. I wouldn't say that Counts got screwed over. Actually, in campaign, Counts did get some changes, and I guess I could briefly, my channel is not really about campaign changes, but I could briefly talk about, I don't know if they even put it here. Maybe I just completely skimmed over it. They did give some minor skill changes to, I say minor, pretty major skill changes actually to a couple of characters. Volkmar, I know, now gives huge buffs to Free Company Militia that actually make them, I think, viable into the late game. There are buffs for Isabella now. She gets, like, ridiculous buffs to bats and hounds in her army, which is fun. Yeah, not a lot of reworks, but some reworks for campaign. Some minor skill tweaks and things, which is nice. Again, anything they can do to help bring those factions up to date. But yeah, I kind of like Lore Beast now. I need to play around with it a little bit and see, but maybe we could do some theory crafting. I mean, I have the build, right? So we could jump into some stuff and see. What would you guys like to see? We have a few options here. Now that we've gone through the patch notes, spent about an hour rambling through them in a very incoherent way, but that's order of the day. Yeah, so let's exit out of that and let's fire up the game, and we can take some questions from you guys. So good they never pay for themselves. Oh yeah, feral cold ones. Yeah, we'll look at the Empire abilities. The fact, again, the AoE kind of ability change, if that does go live, I'm assuming it's not a bug. I haven't actually got 100% confirmation if that's a bug or if that's intended. Yeah, a lot of people are misinterpreting the patch notes. Like, any unit that has Frenzy probably got -2 melee attack. And I think, does Marathi have Frenzy? I don't know. It's a little bit hard to get testing. Maybe I could get somebody in here to help me with testing. It's hard to test with the AI, let's say. But anyway, what would you guys like to see? I have a few replays I could show you. I would like to check, actually, if they... Nope. Okay, so they didn't actually change anything. Okay, so we could look at a couple of these. I'm going to cast these ones separately for a video probably coming out tomorrow. But I had some FFAs. We could watch some FFAs. I've got a couple. I am going to show you guys these battles at some point, probably on this stream, with Sir Agamund here, who has a Medieval 2 stream. I play Med 2 music all the time, or sorry, Medieval 2 channel. I play Medieval 2 Total War music all the time on my channel. If you like Medieval 2, I know there's a lot of crossover. Definitely go check out his channel. He's trying to cross over a little bit now into a Warhammer, so we played some battles. Definitely very fun battles, so I'm going to show you guys those. But in the meantime, maybe take some questions from the chat here. Yeah, so Cauldron of Blood I saw a little bit of changes. We can talk about Dark Elves. The melee defense buff to Glade Dragons, I think, and Hydras is nice. Yeah. 41 melee defense on Chill of Sontar. It doesn't seem great, but monsters tend not to have amazing melee defense typically. Like, it's kind of rare that they'll have even 50 melee defense. The Anti-Infantry, again, for Medusae. I don't understand if this applies to both explosive and base missile damage, then it's actually might be good. I have no idea. I need to do some research and figure out exactly how the bonus versus X works for missile attacks that have an explosion component, because I actually don't know. Are Beastman woes over? Yes. Yes, Ryder Rohan, they literally did not one thing for High Elves besides, you know, typical standardization. Actually, I think... Can somebody pull this up real quick for me? Eltharion the Grim, did he actually get cheaper? I didn't see. I heard a rumor that he got cheaper, but I don't think so, actually. Knights stack up against them. We could potentially. Let me see if anybody's available for testing here. Yeah, we could potentially do some testing, I guess. I do have a video featuring Empire Knights coming, like today or tomorrow, but... Test Medusa. We can test the Medusa. Again, I don't have, like, really great data from before about how good the Medusa was, but let's see here. Okay. So we'll grab a couple of these. And let's get a Beastmaster just because. And what should we shoot? I'm thinking some Warriors of Chaos, like Armored Infantry, would be good to test against. Maybe some Chosen here. Maybe we get some Forsaken. Maybe some Champs. A couple of characters we can kite around. And we're just going to run circles around them and see how this goes. Okay, big oof. Yeah, Eltharin's the same. I heard a rumor that he got cheaper, but he in fact did not. He's exactly the same. Yeah. High Elves, no, they're probably the weakest faction in the game now that Beastmen are not the weakest faction in the game. Probably is the High Elves, at least in multiplayer. Okay, so what we can do here. The Champs are an interesting kind of test case. Ooh, it did not kill a model. It didn't kill any models of Forsaken either, really. Okay, so that's not very good. It still is really underwhelming, if I'm being honest. I know you probably want them, like, bunched up. We could maybe charge over here with this Chariot. Let's see. Let's see about hitting a character here. Did he actually take any damage at all from that? He took very little. See, so that's what I mean. Like, plus 10 bonus versus infantry is not really anything, to be honest.
With me.
We'll give him some melee defense. He's probably going to get clobbered by those Chosen, but... Let's see, if we shoot the blobbed up ones... Oh, no, she wanted to shoot the other ones. Okay, that's fine.
Orders, making ground.
Yeah, I guess that is the main thing you won't see in this test. I was mostly just looking at the missile damage change. I don't think it applies to the explosion. Otherwise, I mean, I guess Chosen have enough HP per model. I would think, though, that Forsaken do not. And I'm letting my general totally get killed here. It's fine. We don't need him. But I don't know. Sneeze. Yes, it's fine. I mean, it's okay. You definitely have to spend all the ammo over the course of a game. Medusas are still... I don't know. Like, even if it can fire in an arc, damage is just not great, if I'm being honest. And I know they're not super expensive, and the melee performance is not great either, but I don't know. What do you guys think? I need to play some battles with them, but I still think they're going to be kind of useless in actual competitive. I mean, their melee stats are just not great. 34, 34, less than 400 weapon strength. 52 charge is alright. Definitely okay. But not ideal. Then you got this thing, which is interesting. I guess it does something. They have good melee attack and melee defense? No, they do not. 30s in the 30s is not good. Like 40's range is typical for most monsters. I don't know. Maybe they have good melee defense. Maybe 34 melee defense is actually good, but maybe not. Yeah, you could jump in, Ice Power. Let's jump into a lobby. Whoops. Let's click. Yes. I don't know. Ethereal units are not... Yeah, you don't take ethereal units against Dark Elves because Soul Stealer exists. Like, you just don't do that in the first place already. So, Soul Stealer will make you very sad if you try and take ethereals against... Because it does all the ethereal units in the game it's good against, literally. So, sorry, there were some requests for testing. Let me get back to it. Cauldron of Blood we could potentially look at. Boar Boys are faster than Reichsguard now. Yeah, they're faster than Reichsguard and Empire Knights. Big sad. We could test Empire Knights versus Boar Boys, the regular base ones. Let's do that. Glacial Lake here. Okay. Hello. Let's test Empire Knights versus regular Boar Boys. So take 5. I like to do tests on Glacial Lake in numbers of 5. And you know what? Let's also do this. Let's grab a Lord here. And 5 for Higgins. For Reichsguard. Ice Power is probably listening to me as well, but test greenskins. We could look at the chariots. We could look at the greenskins chariots. Okay, maybe he's not gonna check the chat. It's fine. Bacon. I do think the Boar Boys could win this. We'll see. Okay, there we go. So, yes. I don't want to spoil. I had a game with Empire Knights. I don't want to spoil how they performed, but that video is coming out.
Very well. General!
Also features the new OP broken chariots and some of what I was talking about, how you may potentially counter them. But again, no spoilers, no spoilers. Anyway. Do Empire Knights versus the boys first.
Victory will be ours.
And then the Reichsguard next.
Ready. Reichsguard.
And so there's not really room for both at the same time.
The ground quakes. Sigma guide us. Fight for freedom.
This.
We obey.
Let's check it out. So on the charge, I would definitely expect the Boar Boys win. Ah, that's such a bad trade cost-wise. Oh man. And the fact that they're just straight up faster than you now, like Empire heavy cavalry is honestly not very good. They might win one. No, I don't think they will actually. I think they'll probably lose all of them. Let's see. Let's see. Once the sustained combat comes into play, I mean Empire Knights do have slightly better attack and defense stats. Yeah, they lowered Grom's mass slightly. And nerfed his abilities somewhat. Which is fine. Okay, so maybe the Empire Knights might actually win one, but still, this is a horribly cost-ineffective trade for me. Given that I might potentially lose any of them is bad. That's kind of the RNG, why you test in multiples in this game. But, yeah, no WA use. This guy routing might make the rest of my guys route here, but maybe not. We'll see. It's going to be close, I think. But the fact that it's even close, these guys are, what, 200 points cheaper than Empire Knights? Oh, look out. Look out. Look out. They're going crazy. Yeah, it's just not very cost-effective at all. I mean, I might win, but Boar Boys are going to be very strong. We can potentially fast forward a little bit here. Yeah, we will for the next test. I don't know if it really affected the outcome of this too much because it was close enough.
Moving now!
But it does look like... If this is a 50-50 trade, that's so bad for Empire Knights. And granted, Empire Knights will hold up much better against missile fire, against other types of units. That's not necessarily the best. You know, these tests, I should say, always take with a giant grain of salt, because this is not how the game works in practice. But this, it should be noted that the Empire trade now, in Empire Heavy Cavalry trade into Greenskins, is even worse. Didn't really change a lot, but just the speed, mainly. I mean, yeah. The fact that they are now 70 speed, Reichsguard are 66, like they're just straight up better. Whoops, I'm disengaging from this one when I shouldn't be. But that one, they basically just killed each other, let's say. Most of these, they basically effectively just killed each other. But anyway, okay, we'll get these guys all out of the way. And bring up the Reichsguard.
Reichsguard Knights! Reichsguard! Yes, General!
Cav, they slightly reworked Cavalry Mass, and we should probably do some testing against infantry. Again, I don't want to get caught up in doing too much testing. We might test a few things, but... I mean, this is more or less going to be exactly the same as it was before, just the main difference is the speed difference now, right? And this trade has always been not spectacular for Reichsguard, so I would expect them to probably just straight up lose this, even though they cost, what, 200 points more? This is illustrating a few more things that I think need balancing. Reichsguard being one of them they're just really, probably, unfortunately, the worst shock cavalry in the game. Like, probably the least cost efficient, if I had to say. As an Empire main, I mean, there's not any situations where I would take Reichsguard over Empire Knights right now. Just a little bit sad. I think they'd honestly just need to hit harder. Like, give them a little bit better of a charge bonus, maybe slight AP buff. Or a cost reduction, you know, back to 1100 or even 1050 would be fine. But yeah, this is just a straight up horrible trade. The thing is, Knights of the Blazing Sun, like, might not necessarily even win this either unless you get a Kindle Flame proc, but 25 charge is too much. No, I think like 5 charge bonus, or I would want them, I don't know. Knights of the Realm are what, 76? Maybe like 72 would be good for them. So that's like what, plus 10? Anyway. Yeah, not much changed except speed, which makes even worse because you can't run. I mean, not that you really could before with poison anyway, but yeah, this is fine. $15, yeah. Yeah, like 10 charge bonus I think would be fine. Maybe plus 1 AP if they're going to keep them at the same cost, or alternately just reduce the cost. Make them like 1100 or 1050. Oh, yeah, that was just a horrible trade for Reichsguard. Wasn't a good trade for the Empire Knights either. Very cost effective on all sides for the Greenskins Cavalry. So, in heavy cavalry trades now, like, well, Bretonnia, I don't know. Like, I just... Ugh, Greenskins are still going to be so strong. I didn't see the need to buff the speed on the boar units, but... yeah, I mean, you don't use Empire Knights, you don't use many Empire Cavalry in offensive plays anymore, unfortunately. Like, you don't even use Demigryph Knights, really, anymore. But... I don't think we need to do that. Lord Google. Let's see. I think that was basically it for testing that you guys had requested, right? We get some battles in. I don't know if I'm really in shape to play battles right now. But, let's see. Let me think. Give me a think here. In terms of other changes. Minotaurs, I mean, again, not that much changed besides their leadership, their ability rework. I do have some replays of some battles I would like to show. I don't know if I have time to cast them, so I was going to show them on stream. But I don't know, honestly, if I'm in shape to play live battles right now. I may or may not have been up all night, so... yeah. Grom versus Wargore on his OP Chariot. We could test that. We could test that. Max rank Stalker's ranged attack speed? No. What, so they can throw their 2 precursors faster? See, the thing is, Hank, the only thing that changed about Boar Boys is the speed, so that's really the only interaction you have to think about. Like, in terms of their actual performance, that's what they've always been in terms of damage output. It's just the speed made them not as good, because they were a little bit harder to use, even with poison. Now, the poison did get nerfed, but in return, Boars got buffed. Let me think here. No, Gorbel and Minotaur been fixed. In terms of mass, we could test that. We could test that. Let's do a couple things. Yeah, okay. We'll do Grom versus War Chariot and Gorbel Flight versus Ragnarok. It's probably going to be the best test. And we'll give him Axe of Men, so it's unbreakable. Or, yeah, Axe of Men. And Malagor can fly above, and we'll get the Wargore on his Tuskor. Oh, the Wargore on his Tuskor, it does cost 900 now. It was only 750 before. That's good. That's actually good. You know what? Actually, bring a couple wolf riders too. More about thickness. We can bring Minotaurs to see if they get knocked over. Torox versus Nakai. The thing is, Torox is going to be the best. Like, I think Orion maybe is the only one who could potentially beat him, but I think he probably... I don't know. We should test that, actually. That's the only one, like, in terms of monstrous infantry lords, I think that could even compete. Orion would be the only one, because he has, like, good abilities, weapon strength, ranged attack, anti-large. Like, he's probably the second best combatant, I would say. But, yes. Okay. Alright, Gromboy. Let's go. Bumper cars. And we'll get Gorbel going against the Ragnarok. Keep that in the background. Keep the health bars up for these guys. Yes. Yes. I don't have any abilities. We'll see how this goes. Oh, yep. Gorbel immediately gets knocked over. He didn't get catapulted. Staggered. Okay. Gorgor is losing. Everything is as it should be. Gorbel gets knocked down again. Gorgor is losing. Okay. Maybe. Let's wait for it. Gorbel's also losing. Stay in the fight, Gorbel. Mostly just want to see you get launched. So I haven't seen him get full-on space flight launched. Oh, okay. Minor launch. But usually it's when he's charging, so... He didn't get initially catapulted when they... Oh, there it is again. Okay. Yeah, he's just gonna get perma-staggered still. Unfortunate. And, oh, look at this. The Wargore actually might win. I mean, if it wasn't for the regeneration... Wow. Okay. So, Gorbel, yeah, didn't get completely catapulted that time. Hard to say whether he'll still get fully launched into space. But it does appear that he still gets knocked over a lot by something with as much mass as a queen. Interesting. Probably base he might lose to Gore. Now charge the spiders into the lineup. That's crazy. So the Wargore would probably win without buffs. It was a little bit wild. And in the meantime, we can go summon a Cygor to fight this Ragnarok. Okay, so on the counter charge, none of them got knocked down. They completely destroyed the Wolf Riders, so that doesn't appear to be a thing. I don't know, what if I just stand with my backs? Okay, now if I don't charge. Alright, let's see now if they don't counter charge. Yes. Yes! Don't mind what's happening to the Ragnarok in the background. Nope, they all counterattacked, and none of them got knocked over, so... I don't know if that was the thing before. I don't know if I ever watched that interaction happen, but it does not appear that they're getting knocked over at all by Wolf Riders, which is to be expected. One interesting thing to know about this fight, too, is Malagor does not count as large, still counts as infantry, even though it'd probably horribly lose this still. But let's see what happens. Mantle of Garok on the summon Cygor. Aha! Oof, still might lose. Malagor still gets catapulted. Okay, so confirmed Malagor on the ground can still take flight in a more traditional sense. Also, the Cygor tends to get knocked over by the Arachnarok Queen quite a bit. Who's surprised? Oh, come on. Cast it. You bum. Beast bum. Anyway. I don't know. If they maybe got like a good rear charge, I still don't see it happening. I don't know. But, hey. Malagor can solo an Arachnarok via Cygor summon. Which is neat. They're awesome for chasing units. Yeah, Unties. Queen knocks over Gorgon. Yes, the Queen will knock over the Gorgon. Gorgon's going to be best against... Unless they fixed it. They might have fixed it. I don't know. But Gorgon's going to be best against, like, dragons, air guys. Lizardmen monsters, I didn't have him get knocked around too much, but I didn't have him fighting a lot of Stegodons, I will say. Needs testing, I think. We see the upgraded Mantle of Garok. Oh, yeah, sure. So it now lasts for 52 seconds. Holy cow, that's a long time. Especially because you can use this on, like, for example, a Gorgon, which is much faster than a Psyg or Giant, and they can actually make really good use of it. Yeah. There are other good, cheap AP units, potentially, you could use this on, but in general, it's going to be quite good. Lasts a long time. I don't know, 20 Winds of Magic is a lot to pay for a buff spell, though, that your opponent can potentially just run away from. To minimize cost, and we have more models like hounds. Surely chased. Plus 40 melee attack on the upgraded one. Was that? I think that's on the base one. Yeah, plus 40 melee attack is on the base one as well. So it's just, like, double the duration, right? Literally double the duration. So that's might be good. I don't know. It's hard to say. So, okay, I do want to test something with Malagor here. Let's fly him over. Oh, maybe not. Let's see. I think I can probably get in range. What is this? Is it extended cast range? Oh, it is. Okay. So, if I can just test something real quick. If I cast this, see, on the center of this Wolf Rider unit, previously it would not have affected this other one, right? Because it didn't quite hit like the center mass. It's a little bit hard to see, but kind of where the flag bearer is, more or less. But now it does hit all of those units. Or like, for example, if I do upgraded Doom and Darkness, if I say, I don't actually have enough magic for it right now. Okay. Which is it? It's not 16, is it? 14? Okay. Let's say. Come on. 47 seconds. Come on. Casted too many spells. Yeah, on the damage scaling Gorgon, exactly. Weapon strength buffs. Whiston's wild form is also... Okay, so you see how... This is a little bit hard to see in the snow, so I'm going to zoom up. So you see how the little red triangles are appearing beneath the gobos, right? So the UI still reflects how it works on the live patch, where only if kind of the center mass, more or less where the flag bearer is, you see how the ones on the right here, if I move the area of effect away, then they actually lose that little indicator, right? But in fact, if I cast it way over here to where, look, like literally only 4 of them are in the area of effect, they should still, yep, they get hit by it now. So that is a huge change to the way area of effect spells work. So interesting. Very, very interesting. So AoEs now only need to hit a single model from a unit to have an effect. Burning head damage, we can look at that. Again, I don't have hard data for what it was before, but... Still hit on... Yeah. Still hit... Yes, that applies to all AoE abilities, right? So all AoE buffs, debuffs, damage spells, everything. Yes. Yes, so that applies to Empire Prayers, right? It applies to, like, Volkmar, the Empire Prayers, which did see some standardization. 20% damage resistance instead of 22 now, but it now will, even if a single model gets touched by the Holy Light of Sigmar, it will buff them, right? You know, hold the line, everything. All AoE buffs, debuffs, damage spells, Flock of Doom, Earthblood. This is a nice buff for Earthblood, actually. It's going to make it a lot easier to actually hit all 4 targets more reliably and get more value out of Earthblood hitting multiple units. That's nice. It's a great little buff for a lot of spells, to be honest. I do think potentially it could be a problem with some of the AoE damage spells now reaping way too much value. Like Flock of Doom is going to be much stronger than it was before, because you can hit hordes more reliably, like multiple units of horde armies. Final Transmutation is better, of course. I think if only one model is in contact of something like Dwellers Below, probably it still does the effect. Oh, I know one thing I do want to test. Totally forgot about this. Let's test new Arc of Sotek dot. I want to see the damage over time effect on the Arc of Sotek. So we'll bring a bunch. Bring 5. Burning Head, some Temple Guard. Oh yeah, I could, and second order. We'll test Burning Head separately, I think. Let's just do this for now. I could bring a Fire Slan, but Burning Head, some Tomb Guard. I think that's this test we want to see. Yeah, right, for sure. I can do that next. Does it apply to passive? It applies to everything. Any AoE. Yes, passives, actives. So like Hold the Line, for example, yes. Charge bonus buff of Alberic, yes. Anything. It applies to anything. Any AoE. So let's get the Arcs of Sotek going here. You know, we got these happy boys. They're excited to be here, spread the good word of the prophet Sotek, Henuin, of course, who, now with the Lore of Beasts changes, Henuin might be a really nice support lord. Okay, so, let's charge, and let's charge. Okay. Sotek's poison damage over time for 10 seconds does not affect friendly troops. Okay, so charge in, drop the Snicks. Okay, so they're still losing horribly to Black Orcs, so evidently this damage over time effect is not doing a lot to them. It is damaging them pretty significantly, though, you can see. It's hard to judge exactly how much damage per second. I'd have to do some more testing and look at the internal numbers on that. Obviously, it's going to lose to Black Orcs, but the Savages don't fare too well. Gobos, as you would expect, immediately get terror routed, so... I mean, obviously, in an ideal scenario, you're going to want to dive this into a blob and hit multiple units with it. But, I mean, it's better than poison because, I mean, it literally just has a Howdah that gives poison on its back, so it is a buff. I mean, the cooldown's not that long either. 60 seconds is really not too long. If you're keeping this up, like, you know, keeping it on cooldown, that could actually be much better against somebody like Vampire Counts, you know, more Greenskins even. I could see one Arc of Sotek maybe being nice to kind of put into that monster blob to try and discourage blobbing of infantry. I mean, you're still tied to a Sildon, which is not great, but let's see. Drop another one here. It comes off cooldown. And let's try and look. That's doing a pretty considerable amount of damage. I want to get in close and see if it's just like continuously chewing models from the goblins. Yeah, you see a model go there. I'm not seeing too many models drop, but they are definitely taking some damage. I don't know. What do you guys think? Yeah, unit card has the debuff, but it doesn't show the actual damage amount, right? It just says damage over time, which I do wish CA would put the damage numbers on damage spells. I mean, we have them. I know it can be kind of randomized for certain spells, but at least to give a range of expected outcomes. Right now, damage over time, like healing, they've changed so it now actually shows the heal amounts. But damage over time spells are not in the same boat, right? So, I don't know. It's something. See how much value these guys got. They still haven't paid for themselves for the most part. Just going after the chaff and kind of the regular savage orcs. I don't know. Still don't know if they're going to be wildly cost effective, but I kind of wish they would have kept... Maybe it would have been too much if they had the damage and the damage over time, but let's try... Okay, so here we do hit a couple units with it. This is a unit that's going to run out of the area of effect as well, so they're not going to keep getting hit by it. Both of them immediately terror out. But notice, like, even if only a couple of them are caught up in this area of effect, right, because of the change, now, like, they'll still be getting hit by it. Even these two lads, like, trying to get up here, these two boys just stuck trying to get back on their feet, they are still applying that damage over time debuff. Right, you can still see it up on that unit, actually, so that actually does make it quite a bit stronger, I will say. This one's got an XP chevron now. It's up to, yeah, 680. I mean, it's still, I don't know. Perhaps versus Swarm factions? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe against Greenskins to get rid of some of their lower tier chaff units faster. Maybe against something like Tomb Kings for kind of lower chaff base infantry where you just want to try and clear them out, get a little bit of extra damage on them in a big blob. I don't know. Right. It's pretty decent dot, to be honest. I think they will be good in some, I think they will be good in some matchups. Elves, yeah, I was just about to say. Especially Druki. If you can protect from missiles, which you probably can. So that's nice. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, is it the biggest, most groundbreaking change in the world? No, but it's probably how it should have been from the beginning, to be honest. And now it's actually kind of decent. Let's see, on these Black Orcs have an insane amount of health. One of the highest health infantry units in the game. They have more health per model than many cavalry units. Like most cavalry units, I think, actually. 60-second cooldown is pretty good, yeah. 10 damage per tick, and I think it ticks twice per second, I want to say, is what it looks like. Maybe more. It's hard to judge, because I think multiple models are getting hit by it at the same time, right? So, it is pretty hard to judge, but... I mean, these guys have basically taken 2 casts of it, and they're almost down. Healthy unit of Black Orcs at the start, so that's not bad. Definitely solid. It's not Gobbo War Boss over here, just trolling me. I mean, Yeah, that's... with chaff support, like fighting these Black Orcs so that this thing doesn't take all of the hits, that seems pretty good, honestly. So, Ark of Sotek back. That's one that I had kind of glossed over in the new changes. You can cast Flock of Doom on top of it. Right, exactly. The Lore of Beasts Skink is much better now. Like, even though Manticore Summon's got nerfed, all of his other spells I do feel benefit the Lizardmen quite a bit. Like, honestly, all of these spells now I could see use cases for. Armor and weapon strength. I mean, a cheap weapon strength buff is nice for something like Dread Saurian, for example, right? Dread Saurian already has 100 armor. 130 is even better, especially against low-tier kind of non-AP missiles. And then, yeah, 25% armor on 750 is actually pretty substantial, right? So, like, using this, and also on other monsters, obviously, as well, it's much better now because of the armor-piercing component. Flock of Doom is going to be fantastic. Amber Spear is still what it was before, good in some situations. Pan's Pelt, again, it says good against AP damage in the tooltip. That's definitely true now, especially with the melee defense. Some of your lower melee defense monsters, you can pop this on them for not a lot of Winds of Magic cost, only 7 Winds of Magic, and 31 seconds for a decent uptime. Curse of Honor Air, much better, minus 24 melee attack, melee defense, and 25% speed. Doesn't last very long, unfortunately. But this is actually really nice buff for the Sisters of Thorn as well. The minus melee defense in particular will make them much better, I think. Yeah, having that uptime of that ability and 200 meter effect range. Only 11 Winds of Magic. I say only. That is a pretty substantial amount. Only lasts 21 seconds as well. Let me actually compare real quick. And we will Burning Head some Tomb Guard here in just a minute. But I wanted to see... yeah, the Incantation of Desiccation lasts for 38 seconds. See, so now, Incantation of Desiccation, 40 meter range, lasts for 38 seconds. Curse of Honor Rare, 21 seconds, still 40 meter range, right? So it's a lower uptime, but it does have the added speed component, which I do think makes it better. Only, what is that, 11 Winds of Magic versus, yeah, 15. So quite a bit less Winds of Magic, too. I do think Curse of Honor Rare is now going to be kind of like a discount and actually probably more cost-effective version of Incantation of Desiccation, which you do see pretty frequently from the Tomb Kings. Maybe not pretty frequently, but it's kind of like Helm of Discord almost now, right? But with the added speed component. So... there's an argument to be made for any spell from Lore of Beasts in certain situations. Of course, you got the Oracle, too. Yeah, let's do the Burning Head against some Tomb Guard, though. Let me grab a Fire Slan here. Yes, Spicy Slan. Let's try some Burning Head Tomb Guard. Ice Power's in chat. Literally in the stream chat as well, so... yeah. Oh, Power of Darkness was basically useless anyway, unless you're Marathi, and even then it's arguable that you should just spend everything on Soul Stealer. They really need to rework that spell entirely, I think. I don't know, putting damage on your own units I just don't feel like is worth it for the trade. But, let's get this. All I need is a Fire Slan. Yes, yes, indeed. Although if you're taking, I will say, with the Lore of Beast stuff, certain builds, like, you would just take a Slan anyway, because you want the healing, especially on certain very expensive monsters. But, let's see. Balance of Power is not in my favor, but the Slan cares not. He is prepared. It actually legit doesn't increase your capability to cast more Soul Stealers. That's interesting. It's always been completely useless. Yeah. I suspected as much. Okay, so... balance of power is really not looking in my favor. I really hope nothing would happen to these poor Tomb Guard here. Yes. Wait for them to assemble here. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Yes. Let's see. A single cast on this one here. Yep. Still works. I don't think we need to cast anything else. That is a non-overcast burning head. So they said they nerfed it. I mean, maybe it would have completely one-shotted them before, but that's basically the same. So, to express my rage. This is the best thing about all the Slans that have Vortexes. As a spell, you actually can do a double Vortex, which is fun. That Tomb Guard is very dead, let's say. Yeah, so doesn't seem like it's that much of a difference when it comes down to it. 69, nice. Fire Slan indeed. Hey. Anyway. I think that's basically it for testing. Trying to think if there's any other major reworks. Not really that I can think of. A lot of it we'll just have to wait and see. Like the frenzy changes. I really don't think it'll change that much, to be honest. But it's there, I guess. Made a lot of edits. How much will it change? Time will tell. I'm curious. Savage Boar Biggins are probably the best they've ever been right now. Savage Boar Boys and Savage Boar Biggins. Faster. They have more AP on their Frenzy and a little bit more charge bonus as well. Was it 12% charge bonus before? I think it was 10%, right? Engineers are short range. No, I don't think so. Engineers can take a skill in campaign that makes them short range, but no, they're still 180 range. See ya, Bubba. Yeah, I mean, thing about Kindle Flame, I should say, with the lore attributes, most lore attributes are actually useless now because of the cost change. I mean, it was arguable as to whether, like, Roiling Skies was already useless. 25% speed and 20 melee defense. Okay, maybe if you know your opponent's going to take a flying unit, but then again, I don't know. How can you guarantee that? Still conditional. Minus 20 melee defense is significant, though. I didn't realize that they had changed it that significantly. Maybe you take that one. Kindle Flame is now down to 20% instead of 22. Still, you always take Kindle Flame. That is the one I would say you always take. Wild Heart, if you're going to be spamming... oh, by the way, the Eagle Summon is still only 14 Winds of Magic instead of the full 20 for the Manticore Summon, which actually does give it a slight edge in some situations, maybe. Still not Terror. Anyway, Flock of Doom is definitely better to spam now, and if you are going to be spamming that and, say, Wissen's Wild Form, I would suggest taking Wild Heart. Let's see, for Death, I never took Life Leeching anyway, because It doesn't give you extra power reserve. It's not actually super helpful. Like, it helps you dump your magic faster, but like, I typically would cut that one. Not that much value. Let's see. Shield of Safri you still take. Damage resistance is very good. Life Bloom, I already, again, didn't take this on a lot of armies, especially like High Elves, where it's basically impossible to take a 20 stack almost. Like Bretonia, maybe. There's an argument to be made there. You take Life Bloom if you have a really wide peasant army. If you have a 20 stack, basically, there's an argument to be made you should take Life Bloom. Other than that, like, if you have, I would say even like 17, 16 units or less, it's not worth it. Definitely less so now. Exorcism actually is worth it for some factions. It's completely useless for the Tomb Kings, so never take it when you're playing Tomb Kings. But for actually, like, Lizardmen and Empire, it can be useful. The Immunopsychology, briefly. Metal Shifting, again, kind of conditional. Sometimes you would take that if you have high weapon strength army. Probably not for the High Elves. And Smoke and Mirrors is probably never. In fact, I would say now it's a never. I mean, it was almost a never before, except for maybe Beastman, but even then, who took Lore of Shadows as Beastman? Other lore attributes, Lore of Wild you still take, because Vigor is very good. Lore of Darkness... minus 15 armor is okay. It's not a lot. It's something if you have the gold, which if you're playing Elves, you probably don't. Let's see, Greenskins, probably both a no. Actually, Sneaky Stealin' I really like. Reduced power recharge for your enemy is actually quite good if you can slow down the rate they're casting spells. It's actually much more useful than increasing your own rate of casting spells, if that makes sense. I do like Sneaky Stealin', so I'd probably still take that one. But the other two is a no. Again, this is literally the same as Life Leeching, Power to Wah, right? Literally the same as Life Leeching, so I wouldn't take either of those. Moving on. Talked about High Magic, Skaven lores. Let's see, I know a couple of these had changes. Toxic Rain. Maybe. I'd probably still take this, actually. It's a map-wide poison effect that you can stack with poison, even though poison got nerfed. This is potentially still quite good, although who takes Lore of Stealth? Warp Stars is probably one of the most underrated, if not the most underrated magic missile in the game. But you do have to sacrifice a character slot, more or less, which for Skaven, I mean, characters are at a premium. Plague, whoop, a little bit of a lags there. Plague Rash, only 5% Vigor, 10% Speed, I don't know, I might cut that one. The Warlock Engineer, though, Musk of Fear, I would still take. Minus 12 melee attack. Oh, this one snuck by somehow. They didn't standardize this one. I'll have to make a note about that. Yes. I'll make a note of that right now. Rune Lore Attribute. Yes, it did not get standardized. So it's actually very good now. Minus 12 melee attack map-wide. That's quite strong. I would definitely take that. I mean, it doesn't last very long, but that's a significant amount of melee attack. Tomb Kings, I would always take Lore of Neakara because it's one of your few sources of map-wide healing. It synergizes well with your faction ability that already heals you. I say few sources, you know, in addition to that. You can potentially resurrect combatants, especially while that the third one in particular is active. You have very cheap spells that you can spam with it too, so I definitely would take that one. Coast. This map-wide damage, I mean, who takes Lore of Deeps? If you do, probably take this. I don't know if the damage is actually worth it or not, but just do it. Because you're taking Lore of Deeps in the first place, so clearly you're just having fun. Vampire counts we can completely skip over, because obviously you still take theirs. And that's basically it, right? I covered all the Lores of Magic. The High Elves special ones, I mean, you didn't really take before, right? The physical resistance, most people would take magic damage against you. This one, maybe you do take Wrath of the Wood for extra missile damage. But for this not Shield of Safri, I mean, it's literally just worse than Shield of Safri. I don't know, maybe you take it. Physical resistance can be nice, but most people should be taking magic damage against Wood Elves, especially because they have very scary Stag Knights. Anyway. I don't know. I don't know if I'd be any competition for Ice Power right now. We can see if there's somebody else online who's maybe I don't know. Probably not going to be good. Court of Nighthawk. I think that might have been one of the rebel, or what are they called? The armies. Rogue armies, that's it. See, this is why I shouldn't be fighting a battle, because I can't even remember the name of rogue armies. Actually, yeah, let's look at dwarf items real quick. So yeah, we should look at the dwarf's items actually here. He now has Rune of Dismay, speed, charge, speed and charge bonus, only 10% constant, but only 10%. Still has the weakness to fire item, which is going to be stronger now when you combine this with the engineer's ability to recharge stuff that does fire damage, and Horn of Vengeance, plus 12 charge bonus is here. Maybe if you combine this with a Rune of Speed push, you can get good value from it, but I mean, it's only 86 gold. It's not a lot. Or 100 gold at base, I should say. Engineer, Restock, does come with 4 charges, Ballistics Calibration, Entrenchment, Flash Bomb, Fiery Ring of Thori, and Prospector's Spyglass. And the Runesmith now has Iron Warden Shield, a 10% damage resistance if his hit points goes below 50%. I don't know about this. And also has weakness to fire. Okay, so both of these characters now have the weakness to fire item. That's actually nice that you don't necessarily have to take the Thane. Although I do think it gives you a lot less reason to take the Thane. Yeah, the Runesmith here, really good support character. He is definitely squishier than the Thane, obviously, but my typical rune loadout these days, I'd probably just take Rune of Speed and Rune of Slowness, kind of alternate between these two. Some situations you might want Rune of Wrath and Ruin. The other ones, I mean, maybe you want Rune of Negation if you're worried about getting character sniped, which Runesmiths and Engineers can get sniped. That is one thing to note. I know a lot of people are worried about Engineers being super strong, and I do think they will be good, but just note how low their melee defense is. Only 30 melee defense, right? Less than 3,000 HP, less than 300 weapon strength. They're really not formidable melee combatants at all. 32 speed only, right? So you can catch them, you can kill them relatively easily, even with like something like a Manticore, right? They're going to be strong, but you just have to be prepared to snipe them, basically. It's what I'm saying. Velcon streaming. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, maybe we could get him in on some battles. We could test some hammers. Let's test hammers. Get some hammers. Let's get like 10 hammers, and we'll test against some things. Need to go to Ultra Funds, apparently. Okay. Guardian for Dawi in campaign, yeah. I mean, you don't get it in multiplayer. But yes, in campaign, you do get Guardian from hammers off of Thorgrim. The speed will work better because the AoE changes, though. It's true, and like the Flash Bomb now, it's a small area of effect. It's a very small area of effect. It says 30-meter effect range, but I don't think that's right. I think it's much smaller than that. Yeah, you'd only need to hit like one model from it. Bring 5 Gunners and 5 Slaughter. Sisters of Slaughter got a buff, but I want to see like versus high, versus high armor versus low armor. We can bring Thorek if they're not getting enough melee attack. Yeah, the splash attack might be significant. We'll see.
War of vengeance.
Okay, let's actually do this sensibly.
Axes out, lads. Kazook.
Okay.
For the ancestors.
Okay.
Hammer
These
us.
guys ready to go on the second line.
For the High King. Hammer us. For it, Iron Brow.
Yeah, poison nerf is big for them. It did make them even worse, for sure.
Hammer us. Move to attack.
Let's see.
Kazook. Down.
I mean, I think I tested this already, and Executioners I would expect to still win, but Dawi Hammerers I would expect to be better. Maybe they'd be better against Chaff as well. Like, we could potentially test them against maybe some Chaos Warriors or something, like kind of mid to lower tier armored units. Let's see this.
Casting the runes.
Oof, I mean, they do murder each other on the charge there, but look at the damage the Executioners took. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, maybe Hammers just straight up destroy this engagement now. That is obscene. Oof. Big oof. Let's see if the Executioners can stabilize, but that was a thick Dawi charge. Both of them have 24 charge bonus, but that splash attack already. Murderous Prowess is kicking off. Alright, I'm gonna use the Rune of Doom then, just to balance things out. It still is like a 50-50 trade, probably. I did lose one. We literally traded one. These ones we're probably going to trade too. Oh, the engineer's shooting. That's a troll. Okay, so maybe the tests weren't 100% accurate, but they basically killed each other. I mean, that is with Rune of Doom at the end there, but interesting. Very interesting. Hammers are more expensive, so it's not like that's a super cost-effective trade for them. But good to know that they can. And obviously, Hammers are going to be a lot better than Executioners against anything large. That massive 55 weapon strength. That's just the way things work right now, James. Infantry is better at charging than cavalry, it's true. Alright. Let's see about these Naked Elves. Still have Murderous Mastery active. I do not have a Rune of Doom this time. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Hammers, I don't know. I mean, Sisters of Slaughter are an interesting one because they actually have pretty good melee defense, so it's not like they're going to be making contact on all their swings, but the low armor, low health means the splash attack should deal a lot of damage, but look at the way the Sisters of Slaughter, like, wrap around the back. Wow. That's interesting. That is very interesting. They actually are going to win one. What? No way. Okay, are the Sisters of Slaughter really about to perform better than Executioners? Given the high weapon strength nature and the splash attacks, this might actually make sense, even with the poison nerf. That's actually interesting. Now, they're still probably going to lose, but do note that they perform more or less the same as Executioners. I don't know if that says more about Executioners or Sisters of Slaughter, but it does look like the Sisters of Slaughter are going to end up losing. They look like they might win for a second there. They actually might still win this end engagement, depending on RNG. But the melee defense, high melee defense versus not quite enough melee attack for the Hammerers does make a difference. Yeah, I mean, it's not, they don't, in individualized tests like this, it doesn't seem like they're super overperforming. Like, they just are performing, right? Sisters of Slaughter still might beat them in this case. This ability here is on recharge. Oh, it only recharges if they're losing. They're all winning right now, or combat even, so... Yeah, I do think that the new buffs and like the greater access to castable slows does make hammerers better. Okay, so they won one. They are going to lose this one. And that's interesting to me that they more or less trade the same as executioners. This fight right here, they just all murdered each other. Look at this. Yeah, see, I don't know. I can't tell if they're actually... Okay, so that one definitely... It's hard to see if they're them actually hitting like multiple unit models at once in practice. Man, that's a very interesting sounding engagement. Oh man, they are just fighting to the death. 12 versus 16. All right, we gotta keep up the epic battle here to the death. I'm impressed. Both of these units staying power. To be honest, one Rune of Doom cast would end this, but wow, they are just murdering each other. So close. It's so close. This one's even as close? No, not quite as close. I'll probably win that one. Maybe. This one, though. Oh, man. Looks like I'm going to lose just barely. Oh, man. Oh, that's so close. This one, too, probably. See, my guys might rout because of that. Oh, man. The melee defense is holding. This type of a situation is where the melee defense can come in super clutch. I just whiff on all my rolls. Yeah, I'm taking damage and they're not. Interesting trade, though. Murderous Mastery was active at the beginning. Like, I kind of counteracted it with the Rune of Doom, right, for the Executioners, but I didn't do so for the Sisters of Slaughter. And they did get a charge bonus buff. I mean, 20 charge bonus baseline. They will get a buff on their charge bonus melee attack, or sorry, charge bonus and weapon strength, right? Right? Anyway. I don't think it would have made that much of a difference. Does the splash do more against tighter formations? Well, the thing is, in practice, when they go to fight like this, like, the loose formation units will bunch up anyway when they're actually fighting in melee, right? So, I think it probably had an effect there. I don't know, though. I don't see, like, a huge difference from the way hammers functioned before. It's hard for me to judge without having, like, side-by-side footage of a previous test of this same thing, but... Man, this is a lot closer than I thought it would be, though, with the Sisters of Slaughter. That's... We all learned something today there.
The Anvil Light.
This game's ridiculous sometimes. Oh, they literally... This Sister of Slaughter fought to the death. They fought to the death. I literally had to wipe that unit out. That's very impressive.
Pull out.
Yeah, I'm honestly impressed by the Sisters of Slaughter performance there. I'll have to take a look at them. I mean, it is an interesting situation in that hammers don't necessarily have their best melee attack. 46 melee attack's pretty good. It's more about the 55 weapon strength and now splash attacks, but interesting. Very interesting.
Yes, laddie. Shield bearers, halt, go! Move now!
Hammer's AP damage goes waste against Sisters is true, but I would think the high weapon strength overall and the splash would mean they would just murder their low HP models, but I guess not because of the melee defense of the Sisters, probably. Can't pierce your armor if you're not wearing any. True that. They managed to nerf the Tuskor Chariot SEM? I don't think so. Based on some testing that I've seen, and I mean, the testing we've done here today, it definitely seems it's still quite strong. Yes. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. What do you guys think, though? Is that it for today? How long have I been going? I've been going about 2 hours, and I do need to get some other stuff done today, so I think I'm going to call the stream. Well, I did want to show you guys some battle replays, but... yeah, thanks for the help. Much appreciated. Yeah, there was some stuff missing from the patch notes, yes, in terms of new skills, the auto-resolve rework. I mean, I'm assuming a lot of you guys have seen that already on stream, but for those people who don't maybe watch the YouTube content and would only read the patch notes, it is interesting to look at. Okay, so let's go with this. Vampire counts are fine. Yeah, vampire counts are fine. I actually was just recently playing some Isabella campaign, having quite a bit of fun with it. Believe it or not, I could show you guys those saves actually briefly as well. Nice power. Ha! Yes. Anyway, so this is myself versus Sir Agamund. We are Torox faction versus Oxyotl, obviously. Many DLC units, as you have seen, but one thing I wanted to point out here that he's going to do to me, which is very sneaky. You know how the ROR Salamanders have stock? Well, you stock a regular Salamander underneath a Quaddle. Not only do you get a decent, not cost-effective, but okay single entity, you also get to hide your Salamanders, which I should have spotted here, but I definitely did not. And so, guess who's going to pay the price for that? It's probably this Gorgon, spoiler alert. We do have the Butchers of Kalkengard as well, a whole bunch of Ungor Spears. He's got some Stalkers, some Chameleon Skinks, Pawhawks, or no, so not Pawhawk Sentinels, just regular Pterodons. Get shredded by Ungor Raiders immediately. But yeah, the Salamander damage against the Gorgon is pretty legit, not to mention Oxyotl with his own scaling damage. A lot of people, including myself, forgot to mention that he actually has scaling damage on his ranged attacks, as it says on his unit card, but oh, the Gorgon. This is an expensive monster to just be eating fire like this, and as a result, I am going to quickly lose out on a lot of value. We'll still do our best to try and win. I've got my Butchers of Kalkengard chasing off the Chameleon Skinks. Got these Hounds who are very much late to the party. A little bit panicking about the Cygor right now, or sorry, the Gorgon. He's going to go down, spoiler alert. Actually gets blocked by Torox, who's getting blocked by the Quaddle, which is just amazing. A little bit of a Chain Lightning, lesser Chain Lightning action in the background, which is a really nice use of the Quaddle there. It doesn't last too long. Probably only going to hit the one Ungor Raider, but still, that kind of free AoE damage. I mean, you do pay for it, but finally the Hounds are going to get home. Start to whittle away some of these units in the back line, trying to get at the Salamanders. I figure, you know, I've still got Torox, he's still an absolute beast. The Star Chamber Guardians are going to be a little bit of an issue. I actually don't have many tools for dealing with them. Mantle summon up on the Lizardmen side as well. Not great for me, that additional terror, although it is quite expensive on Winds of Magic cost. It's going to be an issue, obviously. Got Ungors all over the place. Hounds are trying to swarm in. Waddle, obviously, with the terror is a little bit dangerous to the Hounds. If I could get it in a decent surround, they might be able to do some pretty solid damage to it, given it's got a relatively large footprint, as you can see. Quote-unquote footprint, even though it doesn't actually have feet. Yeah. I don't think they should nerf Lord Nekar at all. I think Tomb Kings are fine. Did Blood Knights get tested at all? No, I don't think Blood Knights got any changes. I mean, the Tuskor Chariots beat them, but they pretty much beat everything else still on Beastman's roster. Anyway, a bit of a Flock of Doom here. Again, I'm going to try and use that to go after these Star Chamber Guardians. Unfortunately, my Brave Shaman is on foot, so he is taking damage from the Quaddle here. I'm actually having a hard time managing the Quaddle. A little bit of a swing and a miss on the Golden Blowpipe, which is why... Oh, no, that was actually Amber Spear. Okay. Golden Blowpipe's over here. I'm not actually doing much. Tried to hit me direct with the Uranus Thunderbolt as well, which I admire the gumption. I actually did not even talk about it, but I hit it. My video about the Quaddle actually hit a Gorgon with a cast of Uranus Thunderbolt in the back line. Hound's doing a nice job cleaning up these Chameleon Skinks for the most part. It is going to be pretty key if I want to try and come back in this game. Balance power still pretty close, honestly. Even despite the horrific loss of that Gorgon, the Butchers of Kalkengard have been able to carry in many ways. We did almost chase the Salamanders off, but I'm going to make a pretty critical mistake and bring my Poison Warhounds off to try and help clean up some of these extra units. Also, still trying to manage the Quaddle as best as I can. Torrox has got quite a bit of heavy lifting to do, and this whole time, Oxyol can just keep chewing on him. But I mean, I've got to finish off this Feral Bastildon, which we pretty much have done. I've got to take out the Quaddle. I've got to probably finish off Oxyotl. Still need some resources available to take out the Star Chamber Guardians. I'm going to try and direct the Bowfire of the Ungor Raiders on them. Only 85 armor means I can do some damage. It'll be not great, but it'll be some damage, definitely. Butchers of Kalkengard going after the Quaddle. And just kind of catch it up here. Will we be able to finish it off is the question. I don't know. Things are not looking great, but they're not looking completely unwinnable. We've got some more Chameleon Stalkers coming back over here, some more regular Chameleons coming back over here. But again, the Salamander hunting pack's still alive. Could come back to haunt me in the end. Block of Doom here on the Temple Guard. Once again, just keep spamming that as much as possible. Try and get rid of that infantry unit, which honestly don't have anything else to kill with. Quaddle still just making a nuisance. The Beastcaster also being up on the Pterodon means I can't really get to him very easily. Nice little explosion from Torrox trying to get loose, and I'm trying to chase Oxyotl, but this is actually a fruitless endeavor. Like, if I peeled this unit of Hounds immediately to catch Oxyotl, I probably could have caught him, but with the Star Chamber Guardians kind of hot in pursuit here, I really don't actually want to catch him and fight him in sustained combat, because then the Star Chamber Guardians will catch up, so I'm going to choose to disengage there. Not try and catch Oxyotl, but this late game Manticore summon as the balance kind of starts to turn against me, rather. It'll be pretty important to help get that extra terror and just kind of spread it around. You can see a lot of my units are having issues already from the terror of the Quaddle, even though it's getting pretty low. Butchers of Kalkengard have almost finished it off, but they've also taken quite a bit of damage in the process from various sources. Yeah, just casting some extra games. We went through the patch notes, we went through a bunch of testing, and now I just wanted to finish up with a couple games I didn't have the chance to cast in any of my other videos, so here they are today. Yeah, I am going to be taking the L on this one, as you can probably tell. The Feral Manticore getting some key hits on Torrox at this point. Also, any damage I take from Oxyotl is going to be bad. Can't really catch him. I mean, again, with the Hounds like in a surround and slowing him down, that's when Torrox can actually catch him and kill him. But I actually mistarget these Hounds onto the Temple Guards there, and yeah, now I'm going to repath them over to Oxyotl, but at this point the Skink Priest actually does dive in and get a nice little rear charge there. Quaddle also still has a tiny bit of HP, and can get a rear charge also on Torrox. Not actually... Is he on the ground? It's so hard to tell with the Quaddle, honestly, because of its animations. It's kind of janky. But, okay, so we do hit the Skink very hard, directly in the face, but Oxyotl manages to disengage. He's still got his Blowpipe, online with ammunition. So there it is, another Manticore charge. Torok's really not feeling great. Coaches of Cavalry Guard also down to only 4 marbles. And that's it. Summon Manticore goes down, but Torok still routs, and that's going to be quickly leading to army losses. Well, I say quickly. Ungol Raiders will actually fire for a little bit more time. Butchers will make a stand, and then that's it. So, nice win by Sir Agamemnon there. That initial blast of my Gorgon definitely cost me into the late game. I felt that. But even still, I mean, looking at it, besides the Quaddle, which actually didn't end up getting that much value, is more so about the mobile terror and not being able to manage that. That was an issue for me. The Gorgon would have helped with that, and obviously the Feral Bastildon as well, but there wasn't that many other great targets for the Gorgon to actually go after here. A little bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. Yes. I do have a video up, Artja. If you just search Doom Bowl on YouTube, it might actually pull up my video, because I did. Turin used him against me with High Elves in a battle, and it turned out pretty well. Granted, I made some pretty serious mistakes in that battle, but still, I think like his dazed contact effect will be very good against High Elves, because it kind of nullifies most of martial prowess. And then I also had a game where I lost with him narrowly against Samurai Warrior, but again, I was arguably due to a few key mistakes, letting the Oracle come back. That's the Oracle game, if you check that one. Those 2 games both feature Doom Bowl. So, yep. Anyway, we've got one more here with Sir Agamemnon I wanted to show. We're going to switch places. And, okay, this is what I was talking about. Kroq-Gar plus the Oracle. I don't think this is one that actually goes well. Maybe I don't want to show this one. But I've got some Sora Spears here. You've got the Skink Oracle. Yeah, I think my Sora Spears actually died to the Chariots in this one. I'm trying to remember. Got some Skink Skirmishers, just the cheap ones up front. Kroq-Gar plus the Oracle. Jabber on the other side. We've got Pawhawk Sentinels up in there against the Harpies. They're going to be actually a little bit of a liability. But regular Gorgon. Taurox again. 1 unit of Tuskor Chariots, and the Caster is also on a Tuskor Chariot, which I do believe the Caster Chariots are also slightly less broken, but still broken. And I also miss with the Hand of the Gods there. Unfortunately, that's quite a bit of value to be losing out on. Skink Chief also in the air here. Yeah, this is the most exciting update for me since I started. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it, man. I have a lot of positive to say. Again, I pinpointed a few negative things earlier about this patch. Greenskins didn't get enough changes. They also gave them some kind of inexplicable buffs that I don't really understand, to speed of boar units, decreasing the boar chariot's cost as well. Just some weird changes in my opinion. But anyway. Yeah, so let's see what happens to the Sora Spears, because I actually don't really know in this battle what happened to them. So we're going to just kind of watch here. These Sora Spears get engaged by Goreherd with shields, which I guess is not a great engagement for them. Torok's also in melee here, is taking significant damage from them, but also dealing a pretty good amount of damage as well. I'm going to pop away from the Jabber, and then immediately charge him in the back with Kroq-Gar. But here comes the OP Chariot, and over here, yeah, okay, so this Sora Spear does just get charged in the face by Chariots, and then loses, it looks like. Like, they might have actually not been braced, they might have been countercharging into these Gores, but yeah, Tuskor Chariots do seem quite strong. It's actually, Saurus have really good mass, so this is a really good showing. Oh, maybe Torox goes down here. Nice use of the Brass Body, good timing, 40% damage resistance and some melee defense, so he will not take any damage during this uptime. Gorgon now charges in. Really nice rear charge on the Skink Oracle. So originally this melee engagement was looking pretty favorable for me, but now to pull the Skink Oracle away to try and isolate the Gorgon. Torox is still in this fight. Jabberslythe kind of throws himself out of it, but the Sora Spears actually get terrified here. The Hounds and the Ungor Spearmen, I guess, plus just all the damage, probably AoE damage from the Jabber and more, dealing with them. This other unit of Sora Spears still holding, but not really holding much. Skink Skirmishers also falling back, but just my lines melee infantry crumbling so fast. Both these Sora Spears are done for. All of a sudden, Kroq-Gar and his Oracle still has Harmonic Convergence, gets a nice hit on the Gorgon there, so it's still close, but things are kind of starting to turn against me, especially because Kroq-Gar is getting distracted fighting these Ungor Spearmen. and not getting any attacks on Taurox, which is a huge problem for me. Like, he just still continues to only get attacks on the Spearmen for some reason. I guess he considers them higher threat. I really don't understand exactly how that works, but it does appear that it should be he gets higher priority on those other units, but what do I know? On Taurox. We're going to try and disengage, maybe try and use up some of the ammunition here on this Skink Chief. I've still got these Skink Skirmishers also here in the distance. Again, one of the best ways of dealing with Tuskor Chariots is to shoot them. We're going to try and shoot them, but they probably already got a ridiculous amount of value. Maybe not quite. Pretty close to paying for themselves, probably. Yeah, I mean, 100 points more, and they'll pay for themselves, which they'll easily get. Krokkar, gonna back up. Gonna reevaluate things. I do have one more cast of Hand of the Gods, so if I can potentially catch one of these expensive single entities out in the open, we could try and take them out with a little bit of a snipe action here. So we'll see how that turns out. Yeah, the Oracle teeing off, doing some really nice damage on Taurox. Also going to get a long-range heal. Only hits Krokkar, which is not ideal, but Krokkar does also get Harmonic Convergence, I believe. No, just his other buffs, Deadly Onslaught and so forth, does really nice damage to the Jabberslythe. Gets some good attacks in there. The Hounds, once again, distracting his melee attacks. He immediately, of course, turns around to fight the Hounds, because they're much more important than fighting the Jabberslythe, of course. And this is going to allow... Oh, no, he does get a hit on the Jabber there. Okay, so still hitting the Jabber. Nice swiftness of Itzel there. Will the Jabber go down? Does look like it's going to, at the very least, rout, which is nice for me. Spit from the Skink Oracle, and down she goes. You know what, actually? I think I used the Hand of the Gods on the Gorgon. I was just about to say, the Gorgon's dead already, right? Ah, that's right. That earlier snipe thing, I said I was going to do the Jabber. I actually did with the Gorgon. But then in the late game here, Krokkar, for just a few seconds, is in contact with Taurox, and it's enough for Taurox to beat him up pretty good here. Doom and Darkness also cast on him to try and get him to rout. I'm able to disengage, but at this point, the Skink Oracle, looks like I'm up against OP Chariots. And this is where things definitely will fall apart for me. Yeah, once the Bray Shaman starts chasing like this, Taurox is going to come in and actually get an attack in there. Yeah, my Oracle I was very much relying on. I had a tiny bit of ammunition left, still a little bit of Winds of Magic. If I had Krokkar a little bit closer, I could swing him in for some support, but alas, it is not to be. Try and run back to these Skink Skirmishers if I can. We're almost out of ammo on the Skink Chief, actually, which is nice. He's probably generated some really good value, but the Oracle actually does rout. So unfortunate. Krokkar is going to peel, go for some terror routes, but at this point, I'm not too confident about my chances of winning. Skirmishers kind of get cleaned up by Taurox, by the Chariots. Oracle out of ammunition, routes, and it's just Krokkar versus the world. Maybe if I could snipe Taurox, there's a big maybe I could win this, but Taurox, I believe, has Woodsman. Yep, he's a Beastman, so he's not going to suffer forest penalties, whereas Krokkar definitely is suffering forest penalties. So who will win? Let's see. The final duel of the fates here. Krokkar actually, just kidding, he's going to retreat from the forest. A little bit of a waste of the buffs uptime. I honestly should probably have turned around and used that Deadly Onslaught to face charge Taurox right there. If I terror routed Taurox, maybe, or if I killed him rather, maybe I could terror rout the rest of this army, because there's honestly not much left besides Taurox. So let's see what we can do here. The final attempt, again, a little bit late on those timing buffs, but nicely done here, maneuvering into the forest, still eats the charge there. Taurox, less than 300 HP, takes another tail swipe to the face, and Taurox goes down. Is that it? Will I be able to finish with Krokkar? Oh, the terror. Will the terror carry me? You can see the balance power did swing significantly in my favor after that. So really close battle, another great one, honestly. We'll fast forward a little bit as the Skink Skirmishers come forward. Krokkar is going to come through, try and terror out all these units. But, oh, that's right. Never mind, I won't win. There's still OP Chariots left to kill me in the late game. So this is one of those battles that if the Chariots were functioning correctly, I probably would have won. And I do think Oracle plus Krokkar is a good combination in some matchups. I arguably didn't use him great here, but I do think that's something to look into, for sure. I mean, Krokkar can kind of act as a ranged unit with the Hand of the Gods, right? So there's some synergy there. But anyway, let's fast forward as the inevitable Chariot apocalypse happens, probably just going to hit army losses before that happens even, because there is quite a bit of infantry left here. I'm going to try and chase the character Chariot. Does not prove successful. I immediately get surrounded by Chariots, and despite getting a few really solid hits on the Brave Shaman, Rockard just dies. So, yeah, well played. Good game, honestly, very fun. And those Tuskor Chariots, man, they need to be tuned. And look at the Brave Shaman Lord of Death, too. 2,500 damage value. So, yeah, Chariots are broken. It's true. The campaign rework is great, and again, they're all mostly positive from this campaign, from this rework, this update. The Chariots are probably the biggest issue, the fact that they're not, I mean, they're very clearly broken. The other kind of other issue, somewhat major, I guess we'll kind of call it a mid-tier issue, is that Greenskins didn't receive enough nerfs, most likely. Cavalry being slightly better, we'll see. I need to get some more battles in for myself, but yeah, Beastman rework does look great, I have to say. They did a great job with everything overall. I'm super happy with the update. That's it for today, guys. It's been a nice little 2.5 hour stream. Been a minute since I've streamed, but we'll be getting more streams going forward. Going forward. That was a terrible sentence, but anyway. Yeah, I've got some tournaments planned. We are going to be doing an Ogres Allowed tournament, I think, this weekend. And then South Sea Mercenary League Qualifier number 4. I decided to put off until after the update because, honestly, who cares? We play it before the update. So we'll be playing that probably the following weekend, possibly. Yeah, so watch for some announcements on Discord, on Challenge, and so forth. Yeah, that's it for me for today. Yeah, the Chariots, I will say, do seem to function, even just mass-wise, they function better. Once the weapon strength being broken, like them applying their full weapon strength on all their splash attack targets, once that gets fixed, then they'll still be very good, but they'll be more where they should be, which is still quite strong in the right situation, but they won't beat like single entities, for example, which currently they do. So, yeah. Well, Optimus Pine, does the Grail Reliquary have Frenzy? Yes, it does. So that's why no one's talking about it, because it's just part of the Frenzy rework. But anyway, that's it for me for today, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. I will, yeah, be back. There's a video going live in about 30 minutes. I've also got another video going live around midnight my time, so that's in, what, about 12 hours from now. And, yeah, that's it. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you.